The nuns had a
Come in?
A click. Oh,
Yeah.
You're good.
Come
You
on.
keep talking. I like talking. The nuns had what?
they had a clicker, and they would click, and you would genuflect, and you would click, and they would.
Wow, that is interesting. For every single person, adults and kids
that was
coming
for
in, or that was
kids.
just for the kids to do it? Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
To learn, to teach.
Yeah, it was great.
Genuflect. You learn a new word every day.
Yeah.
Wow. I think the listeners are going to love that, honestly. Okay. Well,
You want to do the intros today?
I do. Well, first, I want to throw out that I have the Olipop, not Dylan today,
Mhm.
which is awesome.
Nice.
Dylan always has a drink. I usually don't. But today, I did it. I'm on a hunt for fiber. I don't know if you guys know this. Nothing in this world has fiber in it. It's really annoying. Like all the foods everywhere that doesn't have enough fiber. Everything's like 2% of fiber. So I found that Olipops have like 30% of your daily value of fiber in it. Yeah.
What about like a bag of celery sticks?
I don't know. Somebody said me like vegetables, and I was like, I guess, but you got to eat like your body weight in vegetables probably to get enough fiber. So it's been a struggle. So introductions. All right. We have Phil today. Phil, author of brand new book that I've been working with him on, Lifting the Enigma Shroud from Quantum Mechanics. So I'm going to look at the camera when I say this. It's going to be an intense one. Lots of quantum, but we want to first kind of get to know Phil, talk about him a little bit. Then we'll get into the book, what the book's about. I'm really excited about it, and I think we want to just cover general themes. And then if you're super interested in getting the book, you can reach out to me or Dylan, and we'll send you a link because you're going to want it.
Yeah, it's on Amazon.
Yeah.
Or it will be on
We'll be on Amazon. Days away from
We
being
can
on
put
Amazon.
a link out there for
Will
you.
you show the cover real fast
Yeah, I will.
to the camera back there?
Is the camera there?
This camera right here
Oh,
is
this
where
camera
you're
right
at.
there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lifting the Enigma
So-
Shroud from Quantum Mechanics.
Yeah, this is the proof. I mean, it'll be an actual book. I have proof copies of the book coming. And then I'm hoping October 1st it'll be actually purchasable on Amazon.
Yeah.
Very cool.
By the way, will you show Dylan the front real fast? Dylan, remember whenever we talked about discrete, the definition of discrete? And I was
Discrete
like,
versus
it's
continuous.
in sticking blocks. So what he did was he put, this is like turning the Eiffel Tower into discrete steps. Because I was like, oh yeah, it has this relation to quantum where it's all quantized.
Like
So-
we say, it was one project, but it really like happened like very quickly in sections where they just like.
No, this is just.
No, he
fake.
just broke it up
Okay,
like
just-
that.
okay.
Yeah.
Because it's the, it's,
I made a quantized Eiffel Tower. Actually, I didn't. My granddaughter drew this.
Oh.
And
Okay.
because what was the book that you kind of based the title off of and the theme? The Paris Enigma or
The
something?
Paris Enigma,
The Paris Enigma
yeah.
is what it was based off of, sort of.
Yeah, sort of.
Well, very loosely.
Very loosely. Yeah.
Mentioned, mostly. And then also we have Phil's favorite shirt, which think while it's still legal. The shirt that he wears every morning almost,
I do.
whenever we meet on Friday mornings. Man,
Man,
what
I
is-
just thought someday.
what does that mean to you, Phil? Think while it's still legal.
It means that you should be allowed to think whatever you want to think.
That's it? Man of many words.
Yeah. I mean, we have the God-given free will to think as we want, and it can either be good think or bad think, but
But think it. You get to think it.
you get to think it.
Get to think it. I like it. Okay. Tell me, I want in your words, you don't know this. I wrote the foreword for the book and told the story about how it all started. I've never heard your perspective of how it all started. Tell me about your beginning of thinking of the book
Oh,
then
wow.
kind of meeting me and being like, who is this little young buck? Give us a story. Give us
Yeah,
your
so,
perspective.
I wasn't trying to write a book. For years and years and years, this is going to sound boring, sorry,
To get it.
but I couldn't understand why the exponential function was so important to physics.
Yeah.
And it was something that I tried to figure out for years. And that's why I was reading that book in the restaurant, A Student's Guide to Wave Equation.
Yeah.
because that's essentially what it's about. And so that was in the back of my mind. And then for some reason, I started exploring the beginnings of quantum mechanics, and I came to the realization, wow, this is pretty simple math. It didn't seem like it at the time when I was in school, but this is pretty trivial stuff. And sort of that's when the idea for writing the book came about, to present that in some way.
Yeah. And so you remember meeting me at the restaurant, I suppose.
Oh, heavens, yes.
Well, what'd you do whenever you went home? Were you just like, I met this weirdo?
No, I didn't say I met this weirdo. I told Rita, I said, this was pretty interesting, and told her about it. Because I had given you my email address.
Yeah.
I think, and I thought, I probably won't hear from him. And I did.
Yeah.
And so that was good. I didn't think you were. I mean, I'm a weirdo. I'm a physicist. You're a physicist, so
you felt the energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's so funny. Do you know this story, Dylan?
A little bit, yeah. You told me about how you were eating dinner with Meg at a restaurant, and this guy walked in that had this book.
Yeah.
The
Wade Equation book.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was so striking to you, you couldn't get it out of your head, and you had to go talk to him about it and ask him questions, and that's what sparked. You guys meet weekly now, right?
Yeah, we do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Have been for like 18 months, almost 2 years.
Before I met Braden, I was meeting every Friday with a friend of mine who's died about a year ago. He and I were friends for like almost 40 years. And he moved to Austin, and we would meet every Friday for breakfast. And he was a evolutionary biologist, PhD in evolutionary biology. But he loved physics, and we would talk about that. But he was also a computer science guy like me, database guy, so we would talk about that. So Braden essentially joined us, I think, right?
I sure did.
Yeah.
I sure did.
Joined us and Doug goes, who is this guy?
Somebody had to think I was a weirdo. If it wasn't you, at least it was Doug.
Yeah, at least it was Doug. What's this guy doing here? But it was great. It's turned out to be wonderful.
Mm.
I don't remember how many months overlapped with
Quite a few.
Quite a few.
Quite a few.
Yeah.
I mean, it was almost like it was at least 6.
Yeah, I think so.
So, yep.
He was
Got
a
to
big
know.
loss.
Yeah, it was. What an interesting character. Doug, I've noticed. So Phil likes writing books in his free time. So Phil's a database guy that likes writing about quantum, apparently, and digging into physics. Doug was a database guy that liked ships.
Yeah.
Like wooden ships. Like he did model ships and was like big into this scene. It was very interesting.
Well, and he was writing a book on how to, the whole process of doing really, the fancy ship models of the old British ships. And he had spent years going to England, going to the archives for one ship that he was researching. And he took like 10,000 pictures of documents of this ship and everything associated with it. And he was putting together a book. Unfortunately, that book ain't going to happen.
No. And a database.
And a database
Naturally.
for it, yeah.
Why would a database guy not build his database?
Yeah.
So, very interesting. Very interesting. You got a question?
Riddle me this. What sparked the curiosity in the exponential function? Like, did it show up everywhere in computer science? Or like
No, it shows up, it shows up everywhere. It shows up in business, right? Your compound interest is calculated that way. But in particular, it would show up in physics, in particular in quantum mechanics. And I just always wondered, why the heck is this? I knew it was a special function mathematically because it's got a very special derivative that no other function has because derivative, I'm sorry, I'm using that word. but
Yeah, that's good.
Basically, if you have some function and you take the derivative of it, you get another function. Okay? But for the exponential function, if you take the derivative of it, you get the same function again. And there's no other function like that in mathematics. And so why is that such an important property in quantum mechanics? It always bothered me. And I think I have a couple explanations in the book. Finally,
Yeah,
Finally.
you sure do.
Yeah.
That's the enigma right there.
Yeah,
man.
that's part of it. Yeah.
Oh, so I want to read before we get too much deeper. I love the poems that you have in here. I suppose they're poems. They're definitely pulled from
Poems.
books.
They're written by my daughter.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
She's a writer and a poet.
That's cool.
Yeah. And she lives in Oslo right now, Norway.
Really? So okay, before I get into it, I'm going to read the poem.
Yeah, okay.
But what I'm curious about is what it means to you. So here's the one from the prelude.
Okay.
After years spent playing a game, I'm no longer interested in sitting at this table. I forfeit, I fold. I'm not comfortable sitting at tables so small or entering rooms so cramped that I'm required to leave so much of myself at the door. I have 2 capable hands, so I will build my own table. It will reside in a safe haven so large to welcome any new weary soul who wants to forfeit their hand. And pull up a chair with room to spare. Tell me about that.
Yeah.
I'll
tell you what, my
that
wife
mean?
reads it and she gets a completely different interpretation.
Does she?
But when I read it and I thought, that's the way I am with physics. You know, I learned physics, got my bachelor's degree and then PhD. And I was looking for my high school physics teacher is the person who got me interested in physics. And believe it or not, back in '67 when I took physics, that's 1967.
That's good.
He was talking about quarks and so forth. And he said, you know, eventually the physicists will figure out reality. And that is why I became a physicist, honestly. And what I've learned with my education and so forth and everything I've read and so forth, it's just not true.
Yeah. It's
not true. And I wish it was true. And so we got to build a new table. And it's, you know, it has to be a different kind of table. And the people building it and the people seated at that table have to have a different mindset than what we've had for the last 100 years.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
I think the book does that. I really think it does, or at least sets the stage.
Yeah, I try not to be irreverent. I try not to, you know, be belligerent about it, but I really wish I had learned physics from somebody who understood what's in this book and they had taught it to me. You know, I can learn all the math and all that stuff too, which of course I had to do, but I was looking for what physicists actually still today say that they're not working on. You know, what is reality? Well, to me, that's just wrong. So yeah, I think that's an underlying theme of the whole book.
Man, that's powerful.
How would you rephrase the answer, like what they're working on, if they're not trying to answer the question, what is reality?
So I have a quote in the book that I actually read really recently. It's from a blog that's called Four Gravitons, and he's a theoretical physicist. And he says, yeah, reality is for philosophers. What the physicists and scientists are trying to do is predict what they're going to measure.
Yeah.
Oh.
And that's very different, right?
Mm-hmm.
They want a model that they can use to predict what they're going to measure. Okay, that's good, but that's not why I became a physicist, honestly. I mean, that's all good. I'm an experimental physicist. You know, I got my PhD in experimental physics, high energy physics, and experimental physics is good, but which is essentially what he was touting, even though he's a theoretician, which is kind of strange. But we want to be able to predict what we're going to measure.
And that's it.
And he specifically said, I'm sorry, didn't.
No, that was good. I think that's a noble goal. Like, that's fine.
That's good, but he says, understanding and describing reality is still for philosophers. Well, then who's going to do it? Which science is going to look into that?
Yeah.
There's none. And biology people want physicists to look into it. And people in medicine, they want physicists to start trying to figure out what reality really is, and they're not working on that. Maybe a few are.
Yeah.
Maybe Roger Penrose is.
Yeah, he's not making any progress. Definitely not making any viable progress.
Right.
Shout out to him. Hopefully somebody Googles that and sees this video. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's something interesting there, which is it's like a ongoing weird sales trick, because that's exactly what I was told about physics. And that's exactly what they're telling people today about physics, which is like, you're going to study reality and understand the fabric of the universe.
Exactly. But
you get them sucked in, and then they end up doing measurements.
Exactly. That's exactly right. That is exactly right. And God forbid you mention God.
Oh yeah, no.
Because I just recently heard a very prominent physicist says, well, we don't have any model for God. So if you don't have any model, then there's no way to do measurements, and so
that's not reality. Can't be reality.
It can't be reality. We don't have a model. Yeah, well, like physicists have good models of things. As you'll learn, learn in the book, their models that they have for things are pretty bad. Pretty bad.
Oh, I love that. See, that's the subtle irreverence coming out.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
just like
Sorry, I shouldn't have said it all that way, but
oh, it's good. It's good. I know that it's bad to have a lot of irreverence, but our first episode was actually on that. So I don't even know if you know the name of this podcast is called The Disruptive Mind.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
It's called The Disruptive
cool.
Mind.
Well, that's so this poem is perfect.
It is, and that's why I love
perfect.
it. When I read it, I was just like.
And
yes.
So you had a different interpretation even than me.
Not really. I mean, mine is, it's relatively that. And actually, it's sort of even angled at science. I think yours is a little more specific and definitely has more in-depth personal experience.
Yeah,
but mine is the same, which is the things that everybody's sitting at the table talking about. It's fluff. And
yeah.
It's turned into a game of telephone where the message is just so misconstrued. And it's time to just get up and
build a new table.
Go to a new one.
Let's go to another table. That's right.
No,
that's right.
But yeah, our first episode, or was it our first episode on irreverence? When did we do that?
Our first episode was super random. And
our
we came
first
back to the irreverence. The tagline is actually exploring life through irreverence.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that fun? Well, okay, I'll be a little more irreverent.
I mean, as much as you do or don't want to be, as you are, but your book, which I have not read, but seems to take a somewhat irreverent approach to traditional physics or how we've studied physics, and saying, hey,
to physics and how we study physics and how physics is done and how we teach physics, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, things have to change.
Well, here's the beautiful thing about it, and what's changed about me is I was irreverent in a baseless manner. When I first met you at Giovanni's, I already had something inside of me that was like, the reason I didn't pursue physics more, it was like, something's off here. Like, I don't know, there's a gut feel that you guys are off on something, And then what was so cool was over the 18 months, you weaponized me in a way, I'm going to say weaponized me in a way to speak intelligently about things in the world of physics to even other physicists where I could say, you smell bad.
I think that's perfect, because that's what I would like people to be able to do from this book, is get enough ammunition.
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
To have better, intelligent discussions about, various topics.
Yeah.
Because right now I think that's just not the case.
Yeah.
They don't know enough physics, and physics is important in those discussions.
It is.
And they don't know enough physics in depth to have, somebody comes and says, well, the world is deterministic, and therefore everything is predetermined, and therefore we have no free will, and so, what do you do?
Exactly.
What do you do?
Exactly. Now you have a weapon
now
to
you
be
have
like.
a weapon to say, no, that's not true.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly what I would like people to get out of this book.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I got it. So
that's
the person.
That's wonderful.
Yes, the person who you put it together with totally walked away with that, and I think everybody else will too.
Well, I think they will, or they will read it and they'll go, this guy is a quack.
Those are the people that are already sucked in,
this guy, I don't believe a word of what's in this book. But I hope that's not the case. I hope that even, real theoretical physicists might at least give it some consideration.
And they should. And here's where I think on the theoretical side, and you could probably appreciate this. A lot of people look at a theoretical physicist or somebody who's got a PhD in physics, and when they say something about physics, they automatically believe what they said.
Right. You shouldn't.
Exactly. Thank you. Yeah, that's the irreverence coming out of Phil. What was interesting about what you did in the book that I now ask physicists when they talk about physics is somebody will talk to me about physics, and I'll go, have you ever read Schrodinger's first papers? Or Heisenberg's first principles, right? Just first principles. You did that, and nobody does that. And that's what makes
I didn't
it
even know a lot of them.
Yeah, and you had a PhD.
And I have
exactly.
a PhD. But I go back and I had never read Heisenberg's first paper, which is almost impossible to read, by the way.
Yeah.
So I've read it multiple times. But I had never done that. And when you do, you realize, okay, here's the key ideas that he actually implemented.
Yeah. Yeah.
And from there, there's, you go to the next thing and the next thing. But I know I was told it, probably, but I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And I certainly hadn't tried to understand it from Heisenberg's perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think things get so convoluted that literally somebody talking about physics could come to you and be like, the world's deterministic because Schrodinger's cat. And you're like,
yeah. Wait. No. And that's, I was really glad that you really seemed to focus on the Stern-Gerlach experiment.
Yeah.
Because that understanding that helps you understand Schrodinger's cat.
It really does.
I think. And so that was great.
And building a new table. You got any questions before I go on to the next one?
So far, I'm just getting I'm absorbing because one, I am physics illiterate here. I could maybe read a paper and regurgitate what I heard for about a couple days or weeks, but at this point, no. Still unpracticed, but I appreciate, in general, the act of looking at something and saying, okay, we made a system, it worked for a while, it got us this far. We need to do some updates. We need to change it. We need to reconfigure.
Right.
So
that's right. That's exactly right.
That part's really.
I think that's true. And I don't know how disruptive, it has to be, but probably somewhat disruptive.
Yeah. I love that you just picked up because that's exactly what he did. I mean, that is exactly what the book was. It was, hey, here's the current system. Here's a lot of things that I think are interesting that you believe that probably don't make sense. And by the way, here's this element where we should explore going forward. I mean, that's it. That's it. That's the new table.
Yeah. That's right. That's a new table. I'm really glad you like that because that poem just hit me.
Oh, it's so good.
And by the way, you've never said anything about it.
Yeah.
I thought he doesn't even pay attention.
Nope. I've read it out loud to Megan. I've been like, this is good.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, I get it. I get it.
Well, her book's on Amazon.
Is it?
Yeah.
Good. And the next one now I see, I didn't even realize they were both, I guess they're both from the same book. They both have the same.
Yeah, all
Prado.
three of them are from
Is Prado? Is that how you say it?
Prado.
Yeah. So this one is just also as good because it's just so short and nails it. So this is the interlude. Oftentimes we sit in one place for so many years. It's not until we start to wander, that we realize we've been lost all along.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I did. Right? I didn't start wandering until 2 years ago when I started on this book, really, and started going back and reading. I got this set of books from the UT library. It's like this long. It's like 14 books. The history of quantum mechanics, and started reading that. And this guy had a great life that wrote this book. He got grants to go talk to all these people that did quantum mechanics and write books. And he did a fabulous job. He talked to everybody. He was friends with everybody. But that's when I started realizing, wow, I don't know anything about what really went on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, it's so cool. I just love that so much. I do the same thing. And I think mine came from a Steve Jobs quote, and I don't know it off the top of my head, but it's something along the lines of, and it leads into my favorite quote, which he's like, yeah, the world tells you to stay in your lane and don't bounce against the walls too much and do what you're told. And it's not until you escape that system that you realize the world's made up by people no smarter than you are.
Yep.
And that's what it is. It's when you start, we have these artificial boundaries around physics, around a lot of things, but these artificial boundaries, and you're told not to touch them, not to go there. You're not supposed to bring God into science. Definitely don't do that. Don't touch that.
No.
But then you poke that wall and you realize it's really squishy and it's actually not as firm as what it projects itself to be, or it's not a wall at all and it's actually just a projection.
Right.
And that's what you did, and that's what I love that poem.
Yep.
Whoa.
Yep. I do too. Yep.
So anyway, thoughts on that?
There's a really, I don't know if you call it humble or gentle approach to how you're doing this, though, where there's also the capability for people to say, like, oh, I know that boundary's not real, and they just run straight through it, and they actually run into the next lane and get hit by a car.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not good either. So
No, you're exactly right. I've tried to be careful.
Mm-hmm.
Tried. You will see if other people think I've been careful or not. Because I don't want to just poo-poo everything, crash that boundary, and heck with it.
Yeah.
So, but I think, is that what you were saying?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I've consciously tried to not be that person who just is belligerent. And I'm not going to believe in it.
Because then you just get thrown out as like
Yeah.
as a
I hope the book doesn't come across like that.
it doesn't. I wish it did, but that's because I'm young and naive, and I'm like, yeah, come on,
I want to
take it
fight.
down.
I want ammunition. I want to weaponize.
I still have fight in me. So you have done it in a very wise way, and it's cool.
I
It's
hope
cool
so.
to see.
I hope so.
Cool to learn from, too. So I have to admit, and we need you to go watch the first episode someday,
Yeah.
because the first episode was very inspired by you.
Oh my gosh.
What happened was we were talking about IBM's database, the ISM.
IMS.
IMS,
Yeah.
That's what it was, the IMS. It was the day that you had told me about that and how it was so entrenched.
Yeah,
And these things get entrenched.
that's right.
And the conversation turned, I'm going somewhere with this, by the way. The conversation turned when I came up with Dylan all about how things get entrenched and intellectual capital gets wasted. There were better
For
things
sure.
out there, right? We kind of mentioned, you had talked about Doug's thing. That was probably a better structure that
Yeah.
couldn't get out there and it got wasted. And
That's yeah. I
It's
mean,
gone.
Exactly. I mean, I met Doug 40 years ago because he was working on this revolutionary database system.
yeah,
It's gone,
yeah,
and it's unfortunate
it is.
because
It's
it could have been
super
better than anything that exists today.
unfortunate. Very unfortunate.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm so happy about, and what I think is our greatest success as a team right here, is that made it out.
Yes.
Like that got out of your head.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, and it could have been different.
Yeah.
So what I'm curious is just feedback. Like, what was it like writing this thing? How long have you been trying to write it? Do you think that writers need somebody there just to like hold them accountable and make sure they're pushing things out?
Oh,
like
for sure.
Tell me about
Yeah.
the process.
So
What
I
was it like?
started 2 years ago this summer.
Yeah,
I have that little thing in there about the Austin weather on summer.
you do.
Christmas.
Yeah, you do.
Christmas, right?
Yep.
And I thought I should take that out. But no, that's one of the first things I wrote.
Yeah,
And that's how I know that it was 2 years ago, this coming Christmas, that I started on this
yeah,
book. You definitely need people to talk to.
yeah,
And, because, I mean, at the time it was Doug, and then it was Doug and you. Or 2 years ago, it might have been you. I can't remember
it's
how
me,
long.
I think.
Okay,
yeah,
so Doug and you. And, Doug would challenge me a lot.
he was very challenging.
Yeah.
He wanted you to have a character and like a tell a
exactly,
story, and you were like,
So I
"Oh,
looked
no."
forward to Fridays and throwing the ideas out and getting feedback. It was very good, and that continues.
Yeah,
And I told Rita, I mean, I don't know how it happened or why it happened. Yes, I do.
yeah, you do. Yeah, you
But
do.
so grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same. And so, I lead to that to think like, what was such an awesome experience for me in this was the first time I'd ever worked with somebody trying to write a book. And now I have this, I don't know if I'll ever officially write a book.
Well, you should, because what you wrote in the foreword,
Yeah.
I think I've told you, and it happened again last night. I had the people at the restaurant that you talk about read the foreword, and here's what happens. People are reading. Everybody gets a smile on their face when they read it. So you definitely have a talent for it.
I love it.
For the writing.
Thank you. But even if I don't, what I really love is I've lined up other people that want to write books now. And I've told them, I said, hey, I don't know, like people think writing a book is this internal process that it's just you and the computer or whatever, and you just go pump it out. And I go, hey, like, I've done this now. I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
What if we just meet once a week and I just grill you with questions? How about that?
Yeah,
what do you think?
That certainly does help. Yeah.
I think it's a process for writing books that people don't consider, and I've learned that it's something that I enjoy to do.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully it'll continue with the next book.
It will. It will.
Yeah,
we'll hint the next book as we get to the end, but I think it will. I think it will. So,
what do you think is the minimum impact on you by getting the book out?
Minimum impact?
Like, say no one ever opened the book.
I know.
Say minimum. What has it done for you?
Oh, well, it certainly has consolidated a ton of ideas that have been floating around in this thing.
Okay.
For a long time. That's that in itself. And I tell Rita that and I say, people might not read it. And she goes, well, they better. No, she's looking at it for a different reason. No, no, just from that, just to get everything down, all the ideas that I've had I'm an old guy, right? So I have lots of stuff.
You've had ideas,
yeah. Just to get them all organized and on papers, that's perfect for me. Perfect. And if nobody reads it, I think it's too bad.
Maybe they will in 100 years when they realize all this stuff is wrong. They'll be like, oh, this guy 100 years ago wrote this.
Well, see,
or like a Haas.
That's what, like Arthur Haas, yeah. But that's what Doug says. Doug says, people will learn about my database after I'm dead. And I'm not sure that's going to happen, but he didn't, he didn't write the book on shipbuilding. He was going to, but he didn't make it, right? And so forth. So now there's this.
Yeah.
Okay, it's out there.
Yeah.
If nothing happens, nothing happens. Or
it's in my mind, doing what you did is a version of eternity. It's a version of, you've stamped yourself, at least in this world.
Yeah.
Where it's not going to go away. It's out.
That's it. And there are several stamps like that. Like, I have a PhD in physics, and it isn't going to go away.
Yeah.
Even though I still have dreams where they take my PhD away.
What?
I do. Still to this day.
We'll have to dive into that one. That's funny.
I've talked to other people, and they have those same dreams. My daughter's a vet, so she has her medical. She said she has those dreams. Everybody who's been through such a grueling experience as getting a PhD in physics, I guess it just leaves a mark.
That is interesting. That is crazy.
But nobody can take it away. And, having 9 kids, nobody can take that away.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of stuff like that. But yeah, the book's out there now.
You have 9 kids?
Yeah.
Yeah. Will you name them off real fast? Name them off.
Yes. Nicolette, Antoinette, Jeanette, Philip, Lynette, Christopher, Andrew, Juliet, and Yvette.
Lots of ets. It was funny.
Lots of ets.
Yeah, sorry. What's the origination of the et in the end?
I don't know. We just started off.
Okay. Started with one, got a second.
With it. That's right.
All right.
Yeah, there was no reason for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also curious. Did you just name them in order of age?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Otherwise, I would have missed it.
Gotcha. Okay. Very cool.
Yeah. My oldest daughter's. I'm not going to say her age because it'll be on film there forever.
Oh yeah, she'll hate it. That's awesome. I think too, actually going back one step, that's my justification for telling Meg I want 8 kids.
There you go.
But Phil.
Nothing. Yeah, it's great. We talked about having 8
Yeah.
before we got married, because I was partially raised by my aunt who had 10 kids, and I thought it was great.
10 kids. Hey man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. So getting back to your question, because it's a really big question of what does Phil get out of it, even if nobody picks it up. He answered that already in the postlude.
Yeah.
My without a doubt. The poems just get better and better.
The poems just get better and better.
This one is without a doubt the best one.
Yes.
So I'm going to
I
read this
agree.
one.
I agree.
mean, it is so
I
good.
completely agree.
It is so good. Okay.
Yep.
Write what you don't know.
Yep.
By that I mean, write all the thoughts that have no reason to take up residence in your mind, all the sneaking suspicions, all the feelings that do not fit, all the assumptions, all the lies, all the things you think nobody else on earth could possibly understand. Write what you do not know, and you will learn. Everyone else is doing the same.
Isn't that great?
It gives me goosebumps when I read it. Oh my gosh, it's good.
I know. I love that poem.
Yeah, man. You said your daughter wrote these?
Yeah. There's a whole book of them.
We need to meet her.
It's a great book.
I need to meet her.
Or go to Oslo.
Pull some.
It's not a bad trip.
What are your thoughts on that one?
I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense, because probably the most out there I ever was in my life. I remember I just ignored all the work I had to do for that day, and I sat in this room, and I just tried to draw this system for like 6 hours. And I would draw a version, and I would just erase it, and I would just draw it and erase it. And I was like, oh, what am I doing? And but now over the past like 3 to 5 years, there's been like new systems that start to talk about how they're building a piece of what I was trying to mock up. And I'm like, okay, so we're all trying to look at the same thing. We're all just kind of making it up until it starts to fit together better, or you get rid of layers of abstraction. You have things that are more tangible you can put together. And so I'm like, but you got to just start writing it. And
yeah, honestly, this was an inspiration for me writing.
Was it?
This absolutely
Good.
Absolutely.
It's the best one.
Yep.
Same here. I mean, I write like, I think I was writing and doing things before I read this, but when I first read this, I mean, it was like, I was like, yeah, that's it. Because
write what you don't know.
That's it.
Isn't that? It's like,
yep.
Wow.
It goes right back to my theory or my favorite philosophy, which is the world was made up by people no smarter than you are. You can do things. You can contribute, and that's it. Everybody's just making it up. So,
I think there's more to it than that.
For sure. So, for sure. You got it. That's where you start. That's where you start. You start writing the things you don't know. They end up aligning, and you end up with something beautiful that you
exactly.
go, oh, wow.
That's exactly what happened.
That's what this is.
That's what happened.
Yep. So
that's Juliet, by the way.
Juliet.
Second youngest.
Okay.
Second youngest.
That's awesome. She is good. She's really, really good. So shout out to her. Shout out to the rest of the kids, but shout out to her because those are awesome. I wanted to go through the poems. I don't want to go through the entire book. We do have a few minutes left. Do you want to give some kind of synopses of the book and some of your favorite parts?
I think that's hard.
I think it's too diverse.
Yeah, it's too hard to give us a small synopsis. I tried to do it at the very beginning of the book in the first 3 or 4 paragraphs, but still it's a book that I hope is easy to read, but still you got to take a lot of time doing it and think about what's in there.
Mm-hmm. The more you think, the more it goes, oh,
yeah,
it hits you more.
I do want to give a small shout out to Arthur Hasse you mentioned, though, because this was a guy that I didn't know anything about. Learned about him accidentally by buying a book on sale. And it turns out, he had a huge impact, or he could have had a huge impact on the development of quantum mechanics.
Yep.
And I have a derivation of his in my book that is my absolute favorite.
Yeah. It's good.
It's really good, and I had never learned it, and I don't know how many people know it, but it's really powerful.
Maybe none right now. It's just another rediscovery. Same thing with Haas. Like his ideas were out there, and maybe not a lot of people read them, but it's a shame. It's an absolute shame.
Yep. Or people read them, and then they got the Nobel Prize for his idea.
So true. So true.
I mean, that actually happened, right? Yeah, they ridicule him and drive him into the ground, and then somebody else picks it up and gets a Nobel Prize.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So.
Oh, man. Okay. You got any other questions? Final thoughts?
So many questions and thoughts, but I'm trying to keep them.
We'll do maybe one more of these because what you need to do is really digest the book a little bit, and then we'll do another one. It's post.
Maybe, the first chapter 2 and the last chapter or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't dive into chapter 6.
No? Okay.
No. Save chapter 6 for the physics people.
Here's a generic enough question. What audience did you have in mind when you wrote this book?
Everybody.
Everybody. Okay, so it's the completely unknowing about quantum physics or physics. It's
maybe not every chapter.
Uh-huh.
The first 2 and the last 2.
Okay.
Maybe. Chapter 6 is my attempt at summarizing a huge amount of physics in one chapter in a specific order from which you learn. That was chapter 6. And so, that's a tough one, but no, the first 2 and the last 2 for everybody.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think that makes sense.
All right.
And then I hope it's for the PhDs in physics also.
That's really who needs to see it, because they're going to learn that they're going to learn that the math is a little simpler, and their job's not as what they're doing isn't as complex as what their professors make it.
Yeah, I love the fact that in the book I point out, and I think it's true, string theory is just horribly complicated, right? Nobody understands it. You try to explain it and so forth, and even quantum field theory, but it's really based on very simple math today. It's got to change. It's got to not be based on that simple math in the future. Otherwise, we're just not going to make progress.
That's exactly right.
The Big Short talks a little bit about something, has something to this effect in it. Where they're talking about CDOs or something, and they're like, most people on Wall Street just make up these acronyms and stuff to blind you from seeing that they're doing really simple, shady things.
That's it.
Label it as really complicated, so you don't try to do it yourself.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
I'm sure that there's some boundaries there for, the complicated parts, so you don't veer into those. But at the same time, I don't know. I just watched that movie for the first time, and Braden's always talked about it.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I don't know the movie then.
It's called The Big Short. It's an interesting one. It'll be one for another time.
Okay.
But what is something interesting about that is they did it for the sake of money. And you can tell me if I'm wrong here, but my read of physics is it's less about the money and more about the prestige. Everybody's chasing prestige for the most part.
Yeah.
And so I think that there are people that overcomplicate things to make it, they want you to not understand what they're doing so that they can feel like.
To some extent, I think that's true.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they're doing it completely intentionally, but yeah.
Yeah.
And see, that's the way about me. I'm old. I don't care. I don't need any prestige. I've had my life. I just tried to do the best I could.
Yeah. Yeah.
okay. As long as they don't take away your PhD.
As long as you don't, you better not come and try to do
Don't
that.
do
Don't
that.
take that piece of my prestige.
Don't
you
do
need
that.
to get a come and take it shirt with your PhD on it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Because it's got the snake on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great idea. Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Well, that's time we got for this. We'll go ahead and do our little walkout. But thanks for having us, or thanks for coming, Phil.
Yeah.
It was great.
We'll do more, but everybody should check out the book.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool. And Phil's a really cool guy, so he's earned it. All right.
Give it a go.
All right.
We'll leave the building.
Okay.